So talking about the sun in Punarvasu Nakshatra. Punarvasu means return of the light, and the sun is the soul's power. There's also a strong divine mother energy here. Talking about the sun in Punarvasu Nakshatra. So of course the sun is where we have the soul's light, right? The sun is that soul's wisdom, that soul's light, and that one without a second sense of identity. Now, we also have a separate sense of identity, which is seen through the ascendant, through the rising sign, but the identity that is related to that which is beyond our incarnation and our descent from spirit into form is related to the sun. Now again, it's called the Param Atman, or Supreme Self, which is the oneness that we all feel, that light source of light from which we all come and to which we will return. So when we have this sense of oneness as an empowering principle, it's through the sun. And so again, this is a universal principle. And when we look at the nakshatra of the sun, it's going to show a quality of how that light has taken form, or how it will descend into form. So through Punarvasu Nakshatra, Punarvasu literally means return of the light, return of the lightness, right? And Punarvasu comes after Ardra. Ardra is a nakshatra of storms, floods, intense emotion, intense transformation, things changing, even being destroyed very quickly, where there can be a sort of shocking quality to it, and even a sort of deluge and a darkness in Ardra, which again, the darkness is also somewhat necessary to reset things. So again, you can think of like a storm. You can think of a storm or a flood. And a great example is the Nile River. Every year would flood at a certain time. And the flooding of the Nile was also a very celebrated event, because what happens is when a river floods and the water overruns the banks, what it also does is it deposits all of this sort of nurturing silt and very nourishing soil on the riverbank, and then the valley that gets flooded becomes very fertile for planting and whatnot. And so you can see this, but of course, first the flooding has to stop. At some point, the rain needs to stop, the flooding needs to stop, and when that happens, then there's the return of the light. And that's Punarvasu Nakshatra. After the flood, the deluge, then there's a return of the light, a return of the inspiration and hope and creativity that then moves these last degrees of Gemini into the first degrees of Cancer. Now, of course, Punarvasu Nakshatra it's from 20 degrees Gemini to 3 degrees and 20 minutes of Cancer. And of course, this is based on the Sidereal Zodiac. In all the Vedic texts, it says Ashwini and Aries at the beginning. So then by the time you get to Punarvasu Nakshatra, that's 20 degrees of Gemini to 3 degrees and 20 minutes of Cancer. So this is the nakshatra that bridges Gemini and Cancer. So this feeling, or this reality of information and ideas and the data of the world, communication, and all of that needing to go into the heart, is shown by Punarvasu Nakshatra. So you want to understand this, how does Gemini become Cancer? Well, Gemini is like this curiosity, this stimulation, this playfulness, But it's really just us gathering information about the world. Most of the information just kind of goes away, but some of it then gets anchored in the heart. And those Gemini details become Cancerian feelings and Cancerian emotions and things that we become devoted to. And so this nakshatra of Punarvasu really shows that transition. So it's very inspiring, and it shows, again, where if you think of that feeling, again, after the flood, the rain stops, the sun comes out, there's hope for a new day, for a new planting, for a new season. And this is that part where Gemini becomes Cancer, where, oh, we've learned all of these things and we love it. I love it. It fills my heart with joy, right? That is those qualities of Punarvasu, moving from Gemini to Cancer. Now the deity here is called Aditi, who is the mother of the Adityas. And the Adityas are solar deities, solar gods that protect life on Earth. They, for instance, they have to do with things like, desire and happiness, which is related to the god Bhaga. He was one of the deity. He was one of the Aditis. One of the Adityas. Sorry. Then there's Aryaman, who is the god of contracts and official work and business. He was one of the Adityas. There's Vishwakarma, one of the more famous ones, who was a celestial architect. There's Savitur, another very famous nakshatra deity. These are all Adityas, and it has to do with creating a happy world and a beautiful world and a joyful world to live in. And in order to do that, we need that inspiring, mother figure. And so this nakshatra of Punarvasu shows where Gemini becomes Cancer, and it's really this quality of motherhood, and where, for example, a mother or parent or anything, where we love something, we pay enormous attention to details. Like the mother has learned to recognize all the details that makes the child happy, that makes the child, sing in joy, right? And so all those details of Gemini becoming anchored in the heart in Cancer. And so, again, these are the first degrees of Cancer. That's the first part of Cancer, is where, again, the details become feelings and deeply embedded, points of devotion and love. So this nakshatra has that crossover between Gemini and Cancer, and when the sun is there, we have that divine empowerment, that divine embodiment of that Aditi, mother energy, going from details and curiosity and joy and happiness to devotion, right? Like a mother is devoted to her child, all the details of life that become important markers in the heart, right? Because our real devotional state is also going to be imbued with intelligence, right? Like any kind of, God that we're devoted to, the more we know about it, the more devotion is there, because it brings a richness to it. When there's just a sort of blind faith, a blind devotion to something where we don't really understand it, it doesn't have as much richness. When we understand it and we give voice to it and we've experimented with it, then the depth of feeling is also greatly increased. So this nakshatra, Punarvasu, return of the light, even the symbol shows this. It's a quiver of arrows, like arrows pointing up, right? And it has that quality of inspiration and hitting the mark, where our ideas aren't just dry theories as well. And this also shows how Gemini becomes Cancer, because our ideas can just be a bunch of dry formulas. But until they go into the heart and they become, deeper than that, they're not really so meaningful. They don't really change much. And so it also just shows the natural sort of winnowing process of certain ideas we play around with, other ones go deep into the heart. So this is very powerful when the sun is in Punarvasu. Again, that sun is the soul's light. The sun is that inner radiance, that deep power that we're all akin to. It's not even just that it's sort of connected to us. It is our true nature. And it's what we're trying to really develop and embody. And so when the sun is in Punarvasu Nakshatra, either by transit in the sky or in the natal chart, you'll know that the sun itself is radiating through that kind of divine mother spirit energy of wanting to be inspired, wanting to be connected to that sort of return of the light. After the flood, after the intensity of Ardra, we have this return of the light with all this hope and promise, possibility, just like when a baby is born. Again, like the divine mother energy, just like when a baby is born, there's a renewal. There's a sense of hope. There's a sense of purpose. With all that information that we've gathered now, new life has arrived and it must be nurtured. So this is Punarvasu Nakshatra, and when the sun is there, we feel that soul's power and radiance vibrating through that sense of light returning and being inspiring, even in the form of like the divine mother and this divine protection.